Which brings us to the big picture and the grand conclusion, kind of grand conclusion here. There's no big secret here. There's no super secret special strategies. I'll be showing teachers a bunch of little tricks that can be included in whatever program or approach is currently being used. But here are four big ideas. First big idea. A reading teacher's number one job is to help children fall in love with books. After that, 98% of reading instruction takes care of itself. Now, too often it seems that we have this backwards. Too often it seems we do everything possible to help children not fall in love with books. We give them mush to read. We make them feel like failures. We don't let them actually read books. Instead, we make them do meaningless drill and practice. We prepare them for tests and not for life. And if they read anything, we test them to make sure they've read it. Teachers and parents can help their children fall in love with books by reading to them. Read every day, all the time, starting in the womb and ending whenever they don't want you to read anymore. For young children, reading is an emotional experience, not a logical experience. That's why they can listen to Green Eggs and Ham every night. They're experiencing it emotionally. Read alouds in the classroom is a research-based strategy. Teachers spending 5 to 15 minutes after recess reading a good chapter book to the class is time well spent. Here you can introduce concepts and vocabulary. As well, children get an intuitive sense for the sound and structure of the language. Also, parents, next time you're taking a car trip, think about reading a book. You could have a bunch of car books set aside. 2, students need reading practice. Instead of reading class, we should call it reading practice. Like choir practice and football practice and wrestling practice and piano practice. Students need to practice things to get better at them. They need reading practice. Could you imagine learning to play the piano without ever practicing? Could you imagine wanting to play the piano without having good music to play? Reading volume has been linked to increase in word identification, comprehension, fluency, and vocabulary. So the goal for any reading program should be to read a lot. Now in 1983, when I started teaching reading, I used to tell my students to find a good book to read once they were done with their work. That's what I did in reading class. Once they were done completing those so not important workbook pages, then they could find a good book to read. Little did I know that reading good books should be the main work of reading practice, of reading class. Nancy Atwell recommends 70 to 80% of reading class be spent practicing reading and 20 to 30% spent doing skills work. And I dare say we have those percentages backwards. 10 minutes a day of sustained silent reading where children were able to read books that they had selected without anybody giving a test to see if they had read it would be a wonderful thing. Of course, 20 to 40 minutes would be better, but reading class should be reading practice. And then they could talk about their books and write about things they found in their books. I would love if at 8:35 every day across America, teachers would say, boys and girls, get your books out so we can get ready for reading practice. And good homework should be practicing reading. Spending even 10 minutes of reading practice at home would be a wonderful thing. 20 to 40 would be even better. But of course, this means that you have to have good books and other material available that students want to read that's at their independent level or below. The third idea, we must have good books available. Every classroom should have a wide variety of good books and other reading material. This would include narrative and expository texts on a variety of topics at a variety of levels, high-low books, picture books, manuals, how-to books, comic books, graphic novels. There'd be books 2 to 4 grade levels above and below. How do we expect children to learn to read if they don't have good stuff for them to read? Again, comic books, graphic novels, cartoons, easy books, how-to manuals, Dear Abby advice columns, work that other students have created. So instead of spending money on expensive programs and workbooks and tests and all this other monkey business, money would be better spent on lots and lots of good books that students wanted to read, and notebooks to write in, and teacher professional development. If we really wanted to improve literacy and thinking, this is where we'd put our resources. At home, get to the library. Weekly trips to the library are great for having these books. And number 4, stop the search for magical elixirs. There are no one-size-fits-all magical programs that's going to cure things. There are only magical teachers with toolboxes full of teacher tools who are knowledgeable and empowered to make the decisions that are best for the students. Now, some insist that if schools would just buy the right research-based program or curriculum, that all reading problems would be solved. There's a belief that if teachers just had the right program, and if they're forced to implement it with fidelity, that means follow the recipe exactly as written, then we'd create an educational wonderland where all students would be reading above average. Oh, wouldn't life be grand if good reading instruction was simply a matter of buying the right overly expensive reading program and implementing it with fidelity? In our reading education programs, we could scrap all the child development classes and get rid of all our teaching methods courses. We could instead have program implementation courses, or read and follow the direction courses, or buy the right program courses. And the title of my next book would be Buy the Right Program. But children are not standardized products, and what works with one person or group does not always work with another. This means continued professional development for teachers so that all teachers have teaching toolboxes full of good teaching tools.